Mark and Travis, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Dad Edge.
Yeah. Hey, Larry. Awesome to be here with you. Honored to be with your audience. I actually just got off my mountain bike. I was listening to you talking with a athletic brewing guy. That was a great podcast, and congrats to you on, you must be at 250 plus days here of no alcohol and little free advertising. Here you go,
Oh, look at
athletic
that.
brewing. I'm drinking one right now. It's part of my little I got some deer jerky, I got some chips and salsa, I got my Kyoku recovery shake. So hopefully I won't be chomping too much. But
There you go.
yeah, anyway, awesome to be here with you in the audience. I really enjoyed that. And I'm gonna keep listening because you do a good job with this. So
Thank you.
we're pumped to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been quite a journey, 8 years, and counting. And this is the first time I've ever had a father-son duo on the podcast out of over 1,000 episodes. So I'm really excited to have you guys.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
There's got to be more of us than that.
yeah,
They're hiding or something.
we've
You'd
done
be
a lot of
surprised.
father-son podcasts, huh, Dad? So
Yeah.
we're kind of used to it.
Well, so I'd really like to start with really just growing up. Like what was for you guys was doing physical activity always a part of just how you guys came together?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Go
we did
ahead, Dad.
a lot of sports and stuff. And, I was, played, Travis played a lot of sports. I was a coach. We hung around together, real, got real close. And, it's a good way to get in touch with your son, and
For sure.
it's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I think a shared interest in sports and physicality has definitely been one of the cornerstones of our father-son relationship. And like Dad said, he grew up playing team sports. I did as well. Dad was often my coach when I was a real little kid. And as Dad got into his late 30s, he got into ultra endurance running and racing. So he was doing 100-mile running races and the Eco Challenge Adventure Race. The listeners may be familiar. This is a nonstop 5 to 10 day thing where you're running, biking, trekking, fixed ropes, navigating with map and compass. And so Dad was doing those things when I was growing up, and I was playing soccer and basketball. Later got into to running in high school, and then triathlon, and then my own adventure racing. It's definitely been a shared interest. And I remember, when I was a kid, 1988, Dad did his first Leadville Trail 100 running race, and you got this little town up in Colorado, 10,000 feet. I know you said you've been to Colorado a lot, Larry. If you haven't been to Leadville, you got to go there because it's a classic place. And anyway, Dad's out there getting ready to run 100 miles, and here I was, 5 years old, and you got this old cowboy miner guy, Ken Kluber. He's standing up there, and he's saying things like, "You're better than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can." And even as a little kid, that stuff stuck with me, and I knew that at some point I wanted to be doing that same thing myself, towing the line to run 100 miles, or doing an adventure race, or doing a 24-hour mountain bike race, or maybe pack burro racing. That's a quintessential unique Colorado sport. It is a real thing. It's a trail running race where everyone's got a donkey on a leash. So anyway, yeah, we've had a shared interest, and even some listeners may know Dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2018 when he was 64, and that's it's been very, very hard. And there's been lots of good things, and we keep having fun together, doing things outside, we've had a book tour going the last couple months, so that's been a fun way to spend time together. But we also try to get out and just go running and hiking and spend time outside.
Yeah. So first of all, I have been to Leadville. That's where Twin Lakes is at, right?
Yeah, Twin
Yeah.
Lakes. Twin Lakes
Yeah.
is south of Leadville. So,
Yeah.
and I live further. Twin Lakes is like halfway between Leadville and my house here in Salida, Colorado.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah. So one of my most favorite trips was a camping trip that I took with my boys to Leadville. And we, that's like dispersed camping and,
Hmm.
pooping in the
Yeah.
woods camping.
Oh yeah.
And we found this spot. It was really busy the weekend that we went. We found this spot that literally it could not have been better. It was like a front row seat to Mount Elbert and
Yeah.
all the collegians, like literally right there in front of us. We're like, oh my gosh, did we really find this spot? And that turned into like the best, I think, 3-day memory with me and my older two boys. We spent the night there, and then the next morning we woke up, we fished at Twin Lakes, pulled trout out of the lakes. We grilled them up that night. Um, it was it was awesome. We hiked and it was the best. And I literally, there was
Yeah.
at one point, to be honest, I mean, you guys probably see this kind of stuff all the time, but there was one point where me and my boys were fishing, and I was looking at that lake, and I was looking at all those 14ers, those collegiate mountains that we were surrounded by. And the weather was like 75 degrees, and there's this cool breeze, and it was bright. And I literally just sat back and just took it all in. And I thought to myself, my God, I like literally thanked God for it out loud. I was like, man, thank you for this moment. If there is ever a glimpse of heaven on earth, I think I'm seeing it right now. And this perfect caption of my boys with their backs to me, with their fishing poles and these mountains. And I'm just like, I was just so speechless and blown away. And I just couldn't even take in all the beauty. But yeah, that was one of my experiences there at Twin Lakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Good
Yeah.
for you, Larry. That's Twin Lakes is definitely a special spot for our family as well. I mean, I've done the same thing, fishing right there with my kids and with my dad and with my father-in-law, and camping with the families. And the Leadville 100 races go right through Twin Lakes. So the running race goes through the village, and then you go up and over Hope Pass to this little ghost town called Winfield, and that's the 50-mile mark. And then you turn around and come back through, and the Leadville 100 bike race goes across the dam, at the east edge of Twin Lakes, which forms Twin Lakes. So, yeah, special spot for sure.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. I want to ask you guys, as far as when did you realize that this was something that you guys were going to start doing together?
Um, I mean, I don't know if there was as much of a, sort of revelation of like, oh, this is it. It's, at least for me growing up, it was kind of like this, here's a weekend plan. We're going to Leadville, and Dad's going to run 100 miles. And, we were along on the support crew, me and my siblings and my mom driving from aid station to aid station to try to give Dad, some food, water, rain jacket, uh, that kind of stuff. So, again, it just kind of became one of my interests. And dad stayed interested in it. I think I finished college about 20 years ago and started doing this stuff at a high level, and sponsorships and that kind of stuff, and it became part of my job. And I think the fact that I was really interested in it probably kept Dad interested as well. Obviously, he was at a different phase of life, finishing up his career as an attorney, and my younger sister was still living at home, so he was doing it in a different way. But we continued to go to these things together, or Dad would come and be my support crew, or maybe we'd compete in the same race, whether it was team or solo races. And so a lot of it was just kind of, seamless. I would say, really the one point where the choice was very intentional and less certain was in 2019, after Dad had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and this eco challenge race was coming back. It was going to be on Amazon Prime. They were calling it World's Toughest Race. And we realized we really wanted to do it together, but throwing Alzheimer's into the picture definitely created another level of risk and uncertainty. And Dad was gung ho from the start. He wasn't going to let anything hold him back. I had a little more anxiety about, is this a good idea? Should we do it? Will they let us do it? All those kind of things.
Got it. What is this?
Well, we had to
Go ahead.
do it. I had to do it. I wasn't going to go without it. I mean, those were races that I, did all my life. I'm not going to live it up. And some people thought, I got Alzheimer's. I shouldn't be out there. And I thought, oh, bullshit. I'm going. I don't care. Get it. I'll go somewhere else and race. But so I just kept doing it. Uh, Things are a little different and can't remember stuff. But it's all right. Life is good for me. I'm happy.
Mark, I think a lot of people would take that as, that diagnosis is like, well, I guess that part of my life is over. But you took it in a very different direction. You're like, there was even like a hell no, like I'm doing this, right? Where does that
Yep.
determination come from?
I don't know. Just that's what I do, and that's what my kids do, and it's important to me, and important to us, and got to go.
Yeah.
Yep.
We,
I
we,
think that kind of touches on just briefly, Larry. One of the things we talk about in our book, A Mile at a Time, is this idea of the importance of engagement, and doing it in a sense of as fast as we can and also as slow as we must. So helping a person stay engaged in the thing that they love. And for Dad, that was adventure racing, ultra running. For most people, it's probably something else, which is fine. But someone has a diagnosis, or they get older, or whatever. Just because they can't do the thing in the exact same way that they used to do it, doesn't mean they can't do it. If we think creatively, and we think in terms of, it doesn't have to be like 300% in or totally out. There's a nuance, there's a gray area. We can still do things in an appropriate way, and that's been our goal.
has your dad always been this person who's very determined, like nothing's going to stop me?
Yeah, I think so. That's been part of his personality. I know I heard you talking in that previous podcast. I mentioned that your mom dealt with alcohol addiction throughout her life, and that was the same for my dad. His mom was an alcoholic, and she died young, and before I was born. I never got to know her. And I think, Dad would say she was a great mom, even though she struggled deeply with something. And Dad always told me when I was growing up, like, hey, we got this, probably an addictive personality, right? Some of these same things that drive you to high performance in business or academics or athletics, there can also be a darker side to that. So I think that one thing Dad taught me was channeling that drive and intensity into a positive activity, like running or biking or doing some of these races, but also not to the extent that you're not present for your family, and that you're not, you know, doing a great job professionally and in all areas of your life.
So what a beautiful example growing up. And unfortunately there's a lot of men out there that will give up. And I don't even say like, oh, they wave the white flag, but they'll numb themselves. They'll distance themselves. They'll get into vices that don't necessarily serve them. They don't ever strike the balance of really doing something well and also balancing it with the family. We're
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to launch. We're adding new t-shirts, 4 new t-shirts to our store this summer, and one of them is going to, on the front it says, be the reason they don't quit. And then on the back it says, never underestimate your impact and influence on your kids. Be that reason. And as you started just saying that, like, this is how you grew up. It's like, hey, this is how I grew up. This is what I saw. This is what I was accustomed to. So many kids are not accustomed to that. And I would really love to know, how has that impacted your personal drive and how you show up, not only for, these races with your dad, but within marriage and raising your own kids.
Yeah, yeah, you're speaking our language, Larry. I think wasn't one of your taglines like "disrupt the drift"?
Yep.
And a lot of, like, it's, for me, it's a lot less of like mastering. I have parenting dialed, or I have like marriage dialed, or I have my career dialed. Like, these things are all journeys, and you know, for all of us, like, things are a shit show sometimes, and things are really hard. But you keep coming back and keep trying your best. So yeah, you know, dad's example, like I said, of just being there, being present for your family, you know, at the sports games and at you know, school stuff. And that's really important, you know. Probably the most important thing we can give our kids is our presence. And is that always going to be perfect? You know, my kids are 10 and 12 and they both play soccer. And now it's like, well, I can, you know, both my wife and I, we can't be at two games at once. So sometimes you got to miss a game here or there. But you keep showing up, and, you know, try to make those choices intentionally over and over again.
For sure. You know,
You know, I grew up with a dad who is, was perfect, nice guy. He was a coach, I coached all my teams, and he was at every athletic event I attended my whole life, and just a nice guy, World War II, you know, just just a great guy. And when he died, it was really, really difficult, but I still think about him all the time.
yeah, that what are some things, Mark, I'd love to kick this back to you. What are some things that you can look back on your childhood and say, despite some of the things that weren't the best, what were some things that you really pulled in, and why you just think on that? The way I was raised, right, which was there was a lot of alcohol, there was a lot of pain, there was but I will say this: the cool thing about, like, so my mom, struggled with alcohol, but when she was sober, she was the most loving, affectionate person on the planet, like, overwhelmingly, to be quite honest. And then when she was drinking, it was another extreme, or it was a roll of the dice. You just never really knew what you're going to get. But I will say this: I love my kids very purposely. I love them a lot, super affectionate with them. I will say, like, despite pain and despite suffering and that kind of thing, you can really, like, pull some of these lessons, right? Like, my two older boys, like, they'll ask me about my childhood and I don't openly tell them a whole lot, but if they ask, I'll tell them. And they always say this stuff. They're always like, I feel so sorry for you. I'm like, don't, don't feel sorry. Don't spend 1 second feeling sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for me. I was like, there were beautiful lessons. I was like, it wasn't all terrible. Like, there were some parts of my childhood that were great. I was like, but the pain points also really motivated me to not do those things, and to, like, really capture the things that were good, and then to also, allow those to live on too. So it wasn't all pain. But Mark, back to you. What were some good moments that you really encapsulated and then, really passed on to your own kids?
Yeah, first, let me tell you, my mother was alcoholic, and that was hard for our family. I mean, just she wrecked everything just about. It was very, very difficult. My dad was, I told you, he's a great guy. And it was difficult for him to try to keep things together. And 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 second is, I had an older brother who was a great athlete, and played sports in high school, and he was a college basketball player, and he turned into an alcoholic, and he killed himself. Jeez, it's unbelievable that anybody could do it. And he's such a good guy, but you know that's that happens in life, and to some people, and it's just you just got to go with it, and think of the good stuff, let the bad stuff go, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I think,
I still think of my brother, yeah, it's a bummer, but
yeah,
but
I think, both you guys are talking about like the value of adversity.
Yeah.
And I do, just quick aside, so my Uncle Greg, it was not death by suicide. It was, basically his liver failed from alcohol over the years. But back to that, the adversity, we have adversity that's thrust upon us that we don't have a choice about. And to some extent, we can also choose adversity at times. So a lot of people say like, oh, run 100 miles in Leadville above
Yeah.
10,000 feet. Like, why the hell would you do that? Well, to some of us, there's a good portion of it that actually feels good. The training feels good, the process feels good, the goals feel good, etc. But there's also that choosing adversity. You're doing something really, really hard and uncertain, and there honestly, there's a lot, even when you prepare well, that you don't know what's going to happen out there, and going through that adversity, whether you win the race or finish last or don't finish, the fact that you're towing the line, you're starting to feel this well of adversity, or well of resilience, excuse me, that you can draw from when things do get hard, when the adversity that's thrust upon you comes, and sometimes we know what that's going to look like when it comes, and lots of times we don't. We had no idea this Alzheimer's thing was coming in our family, and it has been really, really hard. I talk about more of that in the book. But I think the things that Dad and I learned as endurance athletes have absolutely empowered this next part of the journey.
Yeah, I'd really like to, excuse me, I'd really like to actually talk about that, the adversity you guys have faced by doing some of these adventures. And I know you guys did the world's toughest race in Fiji a few
Mm-hmm.
years ago, which that was 10 days long. Is that correct?
Yep, yeah, like those, so that's an expedition adventure race, which means
Right.
it's nonstop. In this case, the cutoff was 11 days. So, the winners were about 5 days. A lot of teams finished on that final 11th day, and then a lot of teams kind of in between. But yeah, you're talking 400 plus miles of these various disciplines out in the jungles and, rivers, oceans, canyons of Fiji. It's pretty dynamic and super cool. It's a team sport. You got four people cruising along together, and I think it's great training for life, because life's a team sport as well.
Tell me about a time during that race that really brought you two together.
Hmm. We had a lot of them. I mean, so much
I'm sure.
fun, laughter, challenge. If people want to watch that, it's still on Amazon, or maybe you have watched it. I mean, for Dad especially, it was really challenging physically. His back was just hurting like hell forever and ever, and that was very hard. And then the Alzheimer's piece. I mean, there were very significant challenges around that. One moment though that stands out to me is it was the second day of the race, and we had been paddling this boat called the Thomacau. It's like an ancient outrigger ocean canoe. They said this is the same watercraft that people colonized the Pacific, thousands of years ago, and it's got a sail on it. So if there's no wind, you paddle it, with canoe type paddles, and if the wind's up and moving the right direction, you put up the sail, and you're shooting along. So anyway, we spent 2 days with no wind, just paddling this thing, big, slow, heavy boat, paddling across the ocean from island to island. And finally, just towards the very end of that, the wind kicked up, and we put up the sail. And thank goodness for our teammate Shane, who actually knew how to sail. Here you are, four Colorado people, like we've never sailed anything before, but Shane got it figured out. And pretty soon we're just shooting across the water, having fun, smiling at each other. And Dad was right behind me in the boat, and I looked back, and we shared a smile and some eye contact. And I was just thinking like, oh, I'm so thankful to be here with my dad and Shane and Danelle, two really good friends. And then all of a sudden this rogue wind gust came and just boom, the boat was flipped like upside down in the water. We're all in the water as well. All our gear's floating away. I'm choking on water and gasping for air and flailing around. And I feel this hand reach down and grab the back of my PFD and yank me up. And, look, it's the old guy with Alzheimer's saving his son's ass just like usual. Before anything else, Dad thought about me and pulled me back out. And thankfully, our teammates were able to kind of grab our stuff before it all drifted out, into the big ocean, and we got on our way again. So, yeah, lots of good moments like that.
And Travis, how old are your kids?
Mine are 10 and 12.
Okay. So when they see dad doing stuff like this with grandpa, like what are they saying? Like, this has got to be like, I mean, let's face it, let's call it like it is, right? They have a front row seat to a pretty unique experience here, right? That a lot of kids have, the majority of people are going to grow up and not see this. So what are some of the things your kids have said?
I mean, I'm a big fan of like letting kids be kids and letting them be themselves and choose whatever journey they want. So some of it, like, I think for kids, it's like, oh, well, dad and grandpa are on TV, or like they wrote a book, or, it just is what it is. Like, push comes to shove. Like, I'm just I'm the normal dad who like drives them to school and goes to soccer practice and stuff. So, I mean, I think maybe they're proud of it, but I don't know. It's probably just kind of like me watching my dad run 100 miles. Isn't, well, dad just ran 100 miles, like whatever, like time for soccer practice or what's for lunch. So, what I hope is that it shows them again the value of taking on adversity and uncertainty and being okay in those uncomfortable situations. And I also hope it shows them just the value in finding something that you like really care about, to sink your teeth into and push hard and live fully and, find like-minded people. So, yeah, I don't know.
Have you had to have conversations with your kids around wanting to give up on something?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, whether it's giving up on something or just, getting to school because of overwhelming anxiety, or, like recently my daughter had committed to a dance program, and then like a soccer tournament option came up, and that was kind of the big conversation. Like, well, what's the thing that you committed to previously? And maybe this other thing sounds more fun, but let's follow through on this. So, yeah, I, of course, like the things that we say to our kids and what we talk about, that's all very important. And, parenting and education are two of my most significant academic interests. But I also think like the example, so less of what do we talk about or say, and more of just what do we do and how do we carry ourselves day in and day out, and the things that we do. I think probably that's more important. I think they got to see grandpa go up on stage at an event we did in New York City a couple days ago and give a talk in front of 500 people. Like, I think that I don't know, who knows if they'll remember what he said or I said, but like to know that, like, hey, here's a guy who has some pretty significant challenges with Alzheimer's, but he's still going up there and doing that. I think that'll stick with them a lot more than any of my my kids call it lecture mode. I don't know what your kids call it, but they're like, they claim that I get this certain tone of voice, and then they know that like a lecture is coming, and I'm like, guys, I'm the last person to give a lecture. But anyway, they think that's what I do. So I try not to do that too much.
You just come across to me as like such a lighthearted, resilient guy, but also a guy that doesn't give up. You also said something in there too, where it's less about what we say, it's about what we do. Best lessons in life are caught, not taught. So if they see you operating the way you're operating, that message trickles down. One thing that we talk about in our community a lot is, and this is hard for a lot of guys. It really, really is. It's like, my kid, like they get really excited, they start something, then they want to quit. And they get really excited and they start something, they want to quit. And they get really excited to start something, then they want to quit. And one of the first questions that we ask our guys is, well, what do you do? What are your patterns?
Mm-hmm.
What are they seeing? It's a
Yeah.
legitimate question. And then you see it, they're like, oh, like they're like, and they'll see it, they're like, well, I joined a gym, I went for like a month and then I stopped. Or like, I started, I did a 75 hard, but I've quit several times. Or I tried not drinking and then I fell back off and went back to drinking.
Yep.
And, people think that kids don't really notice, like, oh, they're little, they don't really notice, or they're this age, they don't really notice, or they're 12, 13, they got their friends, they don't really notice. They do notice.
Yeah.
They notice.
Just because they're not saying it doesn't mean they're not noticing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. For you both though, like as far as this entire experience for you guys, being featured, on film of your journey, writing this book. And when you first got started with doing this together, did you ever think that it was going to turn into this?
No, actually not. I mean, we were going to be on the same team, if you will, on this, you know, uh, yeah, no, we're on the same team, and we knew that was going to be the case. But it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, especially with my Alzheimer's, and so you know what? It's all good. We've turned out perfectly, and well, not perfectly. I still have Alzheimer's, but hell with it. I don't care.
Yeah, we're still having fun though, huh, Dad? And we're still doing stuff together. I mean, I've been extremely thankful in the last couple months that Dad's been able to do a lot of our in-person book tour stuff together. It's been a blast, and we didn't know if that was going to be possible. So when like signing up for the race, did we like, whatever, know we'd be on TV or anything? Of course not. Like that was that was an intrinsic motivation of here's an experience that we wanted to have together. A couple years after that, when we committed to writing a book, at that point, did I expect that we would create something very good and professional that would make a significant impact? Hell yeah. Like you make a big commitment and yes, that absolutely, the impact is the goal. In addition, like I said, for Dad and I to do something together, but this is my second book. I knew the process. I knew how hard it was going to be. I knew how hard it was going to be to get a publisher and to go through all of these business hiccups. I knew it would probably take longer than we expected, and it absolutely did. But did we expect to pull through and create something really important? Yeah, absolutely. That's back to that that commitment and that idea. One of Dad's saying is keep the faith, and that may mean different things to different people. Maybe for some people that's a religious sense or a spiritual sense, or a higher power, however you want to view it. For me, keep the faith, that starts with faith in yourself, that you believe you can pull through, and not that it's going to be easy or something, but that you'll be able to keep going when things get hard, as they inevitably do. So yeah, I think that if people commit to something big, they should expect to pull through and to do big important things.
So I would love for you to just put a bow on that message. Let's talk to men out there listening to your story, both of your stories. There's what I would call, what you guys go through is actually intentional manufactured adversity.
Yeah, that's a good label.
Right?
Didn't have anything else to do.
Right. Intentional manufactured discomfort adversity, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's what I'll tell you. We've had, I think I've had 35 Navy SEALs on this podcast now, which is really, really cool. Right. And I would call those guys the, the cream of the crop of resilience, right? But it's also very hard for, I think, the average man to relate to a Navy SEAL. I mean, that's very extreme. Your situation with you and your dad, and with both of you guys, I think is so unique in the fact that you get to do this together, like this manufactured adversity. And I also know, just speaking very frankly, Alzheimer's is something that isn't intentional, and it wasn't something that you planned on, but it's also something that is there, right? And the reason I really want to ask you guys this question is because there's a lot of men who listen to this show, and they have adversity that isn't intentional, right? That's very uncomfortable, and they don't show up to that adversity. Like you guys have been smiling through this entire podcast talking about this pain of doing some of these things you've done together. And I would really love for you to speak to the man who might be facing something right now that is uncertain, that he's not choosing, right? That it could be a divorce. It could be, I'll share this with you. One of my best friends, longtime business partner with Dad Edge, just lost his 19-year-old daughter in a car accident, tragically, at the beginning of February. Absolutely horrific. And I've seen that poor man go through so much adversity, so much pain, so much discomfort. And it's almost like there are no words, right? And I would love for you guys just to share a message to any of our guys that are going through something that isn't intentional adversity, and what message of hope you might have for those guys.
Dad, what do you think? What advice do you have to people about hanging tough and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, stuff happens, and it didn't happen I didn't expect this to happen to me. I've been perfectly, just everything was perfect for in my entire life almost. Have a cold here and there, but everything was always good for me. But whoever thought of that was going to happen to you? But it did, and I do the best I can with it, and I'm still happy, and I'll continue to be happy, and got a great wife, and got some other kids, and one of my daughters is going to have her is going to get married. I can see see her out our back window. She's going to get married in the trees behind our house, and
It's awesome.
and so stuff happens, and you gotta just do the best you can, and don't quit.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Dad. And I think for me, through this Alzheimer's journey, and through really staring at my own mortality, for the first time, it's a lot of what I've learned and tried to embrace is this nuance, this gray area. Everything isn't just good or bad. It just is. And there are, losing people we love, a terrible diagnosis, like these things are horrible. And one thing I often tell myself, and I have, and I've been through some fairly significant mental health challenges with depression and anxiety, is it never always gets worse. Just because something is going really bad doesn't mean it's just going to keep getting worse, and it may get better. And a lot of it, for me, it starts with the team, and that team, it begins with your family. It goes to your friends and your community. And a huge piece of the team can be professional support. Maybe it is, it's addiction or mental health or fitness or whatever. Get a team. Like, boy, if you ask me, asking for help, that is a sign of courage and leadership, because we are a social species. We work, we are wired to be together, being the tough guy who, I can figure this out on my own, I don't need help, like all that kind of shit. Like, I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it's it's asking for help and looking for opportunities to give help, because like when we have a chance to help someone, that feels really good. And that's one of the things I tell myself when I'm going to ask for help, is like, I'm giving someone an opportunity here to help me, or to help someone else. So I have, if you want, Larry, I wrote this, I don't know if I call it a poem or something, but this is
Yeah.
kind of about like taking this adversity, something really hard. In this case, it's Alzheimer's, but I think I'll share it because it may apply to other people, whatever they're navigating through. This is called "What If We See the Long Goodbye as a Gift?" No one wishes for the long goodbye, and it's generally presented as a struggle. That's true. The long goodbye is a monumental struggle. But what if we can simultaneously embrace it as a gift? A chance to really live with purpose as a family, a chance to grow wise. Uncertainty is undeniable. Patience is paramount. The mystery is the magic. The process is the point. A chance to grow in thinking creatively, loving deeply, and communicating artfully. A chance to dig deep in helping others and accepting help. A chance to embrace nuance and uncertainty. A chance to progress both as fast as we can and as slow as we must. A chance to learn about grief and adopt the wisdom and humanity that come through grieving deeply over time, alone and in community. A chance to train mentally, learning to eschew future hypotheticals and be in the moment, as exemplified by those experiencing dementia. A chance to comprehend comparison as the thief of all joy, and in doing so be happier with things as they are right now and less sad about how the present stacks up against the past. A chance to take on new and unforeseen opportunities, even as we navigate new and unforeseen challenges. A chance to step back and gain perspective of our place in the cosmos and the circle of life. A chance to connect and build community with those navigating a similar path. A chance to take risks, focusing on quality over certainty and spending more time moving towards what we want than away from what we fear. Thanks dearly to my wife, Amy, for introducing me to the idea of the long goodbye as a gift. And thanks for bearing with me. I know that's a little long-winded, but that for me, that's kind of, that's where it's been at lately.
My God, man. If I could just wrap that in a bow and carry, if every man can carry that with them, that would be amazing. If Travis, if it's okay with you, I would love for you to be able to email me that, and I would love to put it in the show notes. That way the men can really just read it. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And it also, I mean, honestly, for me, like, all this stuff is a process. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I wrote that poem, over time and compiled some ideas. Like, does that always stick with me? Do I wake up every day and have this mastery over my mindset or the stories in my mind or my mood? Hell no.
Right.
It's a battle every day. And that's why, again, getting in the weeds here, but I have like a little calendar note that I read every morning, a repeating calendar thing. And it's kind of like a, I don't know if you call it a journal or, affirmations or something like that, but it's like stuff like this that I've written, or stories that I've heard, quotes, maybe it's something I get from, the Dad Edge podcast or something. But for me, that really helps me, start the day in as good of a place as possible. And then I spend time with my kids and get them to school. And then usually after that, the next thing I do is exercise, because I know that's going to put me in the best state for the rest of my workday.
So awesome, man. Gosh, that is so awesome. I want to give you guys here an opportunity. The last two questions I have for you, and I would love for you to take turns on this. So I'm going to ask each one of you a very similar question. But Travis, I'm going to put you on the spot. Cool with that?
I'm ready.
I figure you would be. I figure there'd
Keep
be no
showing up.
hesitation, right?
Here I am. Yep.
Yeah. I would love for you just to talk to your dad, not necessarily the audience or to me, and just share with your dad the things that have been most meaningful for you, just being his son, being his partner, being able to watch him as you grew up, what the relationship maybe means to you now, just some of those nugget ideas in there. But I would just love for you to speak freely.
That's a good idea, Larry. Thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I could go on and on, but Dad, I just want to thank you for teaching me to be a dad and to be a husband and um to make a difference. And um, I I want you to know that I love you, Dad, and I always will. And even though we don't know where, this is going, like we'll be in it together. And I'm always right there with you, Dad. And thanks for thanks for showing me that it's never too late to help other people. You're still doing that. You're still doing that. You're still making a difference. And I think people would hear you, talking here, and they probably would have no idea how significant your challenges are with remembering stuff or getting around the house. But you're you're still showing up, Dad, and I will always be in it with you.
I know, bud. I know you will. I'll always be with you as well.
So I need to.
Don't worry about me. I'm going to get it done.
I know.
Yeah, yep. I will.
Yeah, I know, Dad.
Oh my God. So as I compose myself after hearing that, Mark, I would love for you to share with Travis what it's meant for you to watch him grow up from a young boy into a young man who's married, raising 2 kids, and is now your partner in crime when it comes to racing these crazy races that have brought you together. But what does he mean to you?
Travis is like one of the best people that I've ever known in my life. And he's going to stay that way. He thinks about his kids. He thinks about me. He thinks about everything. And our family he thinks about our family all the time. And he's the smartest guy. I don't know where I got that from, but he's the best, man. And we'll be together for a long time, and just keep after it. Don't quit.
Thanks, Dad.
I got to tell you,
Thanks, bud.
I got to tell you guys. So, Mark, that's a message I think every son wants to hear from his dad, that you're like the best person I know and the best person you've ever known. I think that's there's a part of me that, to be quite honest, like I wish I would have heard that. And I think there's a lot of guys in the audience who are like, man, I wish I would have heard that. And, Travis, you sharing that with your dad, I put myself in your dad's position, as I'm sure you do. And to think, if one of my sons told me that, like how I would like literally like that life would be complete. Like there's nothing else on the planet that I would ever need. But to hear those, sorry, to hear those words.
Yeah.
So
thanks, Larry.
man.
Larry, you're on the spot now. Here's the question for you. So your son is 17. He got his license. Yeah. He's driving himself to school.
Yeah.
And you discovered you're not driving him anymore. Again, this is from that other podcast. You wrote him a note. You said, we're going to have one more day where I drive you to school. So you could have the closure. You wrote him a note. What did it say? You can read the note if you want. You probably don't have it in front of you, but give us a gist of that. What do you tell? I mean, that's, I feel like with my kids at 10 and 12, like we've turned this corner. Like they're not little kids. They're kids. They're like, they're these tweens. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, we are like past the halfway point to, age 18. And, that's a traditional age. You're out of the house. Who knows? Maybe they are maybe they're not, but like it's put into hyper focus. Like, when you have little kids, sometimes just the grind of like, getting to bed and like, all this stuff is really hard. All of a sudden I've been like, I love, like, my daughter's 10 and I still get to read. She likes it when I read to her. So I read to her for like an hour every night. And it's like the best thing we do every day. But you're not driving your kid to school. What'd you tell him, Larry?
Well, if you guys want to hang on, I'll grab my other computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Be right
All
back.
right. Go get it. Thanks. This guy's pretty good, huh, Dad?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Fun guy to talk to. His podcast it's like just for dads, about being a good dad. That's why you're a perfect guest. You thinking about doing some repeats today, Dad?
I already did.
Yeah. All right.
Did a bunch. Yeah.
Excellent.
Banging them out.
Yeah. Good job.
All right. Pretty sure I saved it.
Cool. Thanks for being open to sharing this, Larry.
Oh yeah. Let me make sure I saved it. I'm pretty sure I did. Just gotta. I had to have saved it. Hang on one second. This is why we have an editor. This is it. And I don't know if I actually saved it, which is kind of crazy. So, but I can give you the gist of it. I printed it out. All that.
No worries, please do.
So I shared with him this letter, and it literally, I remember I was writing it when I was sitting out on my deck, and I put on some music, and I wrote this letter to him the night before I took him to school for the last time, and it was like had me in tears, man. And I sat down and I started I was like, where do I start this? And I said, and I started when I drove him home from the hospital, because I remember it like it was yesterday. I drove like, like I felt like 5 miles an hour the whole way home because I wanted to be extra careful. I had this precious in the back of my car. And I remember just driving paranoid. And I was like, man, I remember the first time I had you in my car, and it was taking you home from the hospital. And then I remember you got a little older, and then I took you to daycare for the first time, and then to preschool. And then there's all these milestones of then you graduated preschool, then you graduated kindergarten, then you went on to middle school, and then you graduated 8th grade, and now into high school. And it was literally very similar to what you guys just did for each other, which is I really wanted to highlight, acknowledge, and appreciate the young man and the characteristics that I see in him, of this incredible young man who's got this gift of empathy and connection that I've very rarely seen at somebody his age. He's able to hold these conversations, and he's one of those people that can make anybody feel comfortable talking to them. And it's just such a beautiful gift to have. And I love the other thing I put in the letter too was I love the fact that his favorite 2 words are "let's talk." Every night before he goes to bed, let's talk. And he just loves to recap his day and what it's all about. And sorry. Mark, I have to just share with you that I really appreciate you sharing what you did about Travis, because I said very similar things to Ethan, you know, being that, not only am I proud of him because he's my son, and I know this doesn't sound objective, but he's one of the best people I know on the planet. Like he has just such all these amazing endearing qualities that I just love so much, and he's so wise beyond his years. And I just love the fact that he's compassionate, selfless, generous, loves to connect with people. He's doing what I would say is quite a bit the opposite of people his age, who are just into their TikToks and into their phones and how popular they are, or this or that. The other thing, like how I think in the letter I even incorporated how strong he is with his faith. And I just was like, my gosh, like that was the furthest thing on my mind when I was 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, he inspires me so much to be better myself, because I'm like, man, like if I'm raising him, I've got to be ahead of this guy, and ahead in a good way, being like, I got to help guide and lead it. But man, he's like light years ahead of me in some of these things. Right. But it really boiled down to that, is just this nostalgia of what it was like bringing him home for the first time, all these experiences of him growing up, and these chapters, man, that are so, they just sneak up on you. And you're like, wait, we're done with that? Like I
Yep.
wasn't ready for that one.
Yep.
And so that's really what the letter encapsulated.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Larry. That's great, man. And go Ethan. Way to go. And go team. I'm sure his brothers are awesome as well. Yeah, you gotta you bring those kids to Colorado again, drop a line, and we'll cast some lines at Twin Lakes. Or we got the Arkansas River runs, it starts north of Twin Lakes up above Leadville, and it picks up steam as it comes down here to Salida. But man, gold medal fly fishing water. So bring the kids down. We should do some fishing.
Hey man, end of August I'll be there. I would love to. And my 9-year-old, and bring my 9-year-old. He I'm sure you guys have heard the 5 love languages, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is we took that test, and
Mm-hmm.
he was joking, but he was serious. He's like, my love language is not on there. I was like, well, what's your love language? He's like, fishing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, well, guys,
Good for him.
man, this has been one of the coolest podcasts I've had yet, just to hear both of you guys and to share your experiences. I want to make sure that the guys can find you and everything you're doing, your book. And I know the documentary is on Amazon and all that good stuff, but where's the best place for guys to connect with you?
Yeah, well, thanks, Larry, and thanks to the audience. I mean, clearly this topic of fatherhood or being a dad, I mean, it's super important to me, and I think I got that from my dad. So appreciate what all you guys are doing. Yeah, travismacy.com. That's got a link to our book, A Mile at a Time. That's probably the best spot. Again, the people want to watch that adventure race. That's on Amazon. It's called World's Toughest Race. And then Instagram, I'm on there fairly regularly. That's at Travis Macy. Dad's on Instagram too. Dad's honestly right now the tech stuff gets kind of hard with Alzheimer's, so Dad's got his tech support team on the Instagram account, which is mostly like me and my sister. But that's at yeah.
I don't know what that stuff is.
Well, that's true. Dad's on Strava too. We're both on Strava. That's like kind of a sort of site where you can post your exercise and stuff. But yeah, anyway, Dad's at mmacy146 on Instagram. And we host a podcast as well. That's called the Travis Macy Show. We talk about a lot of stuff like this: endurance athletics, the Alzheimer's stuff. The tagline is Adventure Mindset Life, which pretty much means I get to talk to people I like about stuff I'm interested in. And Dad co-hosts a lot of those with me. So we have fun doing that stuff, huh, Dad?
Yep.
Man, it's like the coolest dynamic duo ever. So this was awesome.
Well,
guys.
Thanks, Larry.
It's mostly Travis, not me.
Well,
You keep showing up, Dad, and obviously, I mean, Mom's the hero of our team. She's the one who's really supporting Dad day to day, and I would get it's probably hard to get on the Zoom call without Mom's support. So, anyway, Mom's in the background there. Thanks, Mom.
So, I got to tell you that my wife and I have been married for like 150 years or something like that. And she's the person that makes the go around this man. Because we'd be really in big trouble without her. So
yeah, I think you guys started dating in like 1968 or something, Dad. So
we've been married.
It has been a while.
We've been married for, man, I don't know. We met in high school and have been together ever since. Unbelievable, huh?
It's unreal, man.
Mhm.
That is unreal. You don't hear that very often.
And she's taken care of kids that have been lost and no place to live, and man, they're going to be out in my backyard too. And the other one's getting married, and the other kids that have been, just out in the middle of the nowhere, and she's picked them up, and so it's like having a bunch of cats out there, and it'll be a good time.
Oh man, they don't make they just don't make fairy tales like that anymore. You don't hear that very often, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
really cool. You guys have been doing it long. So
yeah.
well, you guys have been seriously so inspirational, so phenomenal. There hasn't been many podcasts that I've really, really gotten emotional, but man, this was such a treat. I want to make sure the audience can find you guys. So guys, not to worry, we're going to have all the links in the show notes. Head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday 108 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday 08. We'll have travismacy.com. We'll have a link for the Amazon World's Toughest Race documentary, as well as Instagram handles for both Travis and Mark, and their podcast as well. Guys, go pick up their book. Go support these men. They're doing phenomenal things in the world, as you clearly heard today. So, Travis and Mark, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
going to be listening to more of your episodes. You're good at this stuff.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Gentlemen, goes without saying on this show, go out and live legendary. Take care.